everyone in Irish Nation, with the exception of a few, slowly is drastically tearing away at the Irish's title hopes. Meanwhile, the nation as a whole, for the most part, still considers the Irish a top 25 football team. Despite the fact that our defense seemingly has been non-existent to others. Meanwhile, individuals like myself see it for what it is. Great offenses. But there's still no excuse for the lack of tackling and possible coaching scheming. These stories and others on this edition of Talk Like a Champion. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on this edition of Talk Like a Champion. Of course, you're talking with the one and only Mr. CeeLo here. And guys, I must tell you, it amazes me how a few issues can make a fan base just rattle. I know this is a little late in the week, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this show. I got to tell you, I'm disappointed in a lot of people because it seems like the only people that really have any kind of belief in this football team are outside of the five there. You know, looking at this team, and I'm really struggling to see anybody outside of South End willing to say that there's opportunity. Let me go ahead and say this to all of you that are watching. I love doing this podcast. I love doing this YouTube channel. I absolutely love being able to do what I do and have fun with it. The worst part of this job is seeing people who make these kind of statements and then a week later they say, oh, I was just giving you a kick in the butt. No, what you're doing is you're being a fair weather fan. Kind of like what Steve Smith said about the Carolina Panthers fan base. You cannot have high expectations 1 minute and then because you hit a few potholes, you all of a sudden can't get it done. I'm of the belief, I can't remember what article I read this in, but it just said that we've been the victim. We've not been, the football gods have not been on our side. Oh yeah, you can call it what you want, but we've lost 2 games by a combined 4 points. 4 points, and we lost a game by 1 point at home. And you guys know my philosophy on this. We're supposed to win at home. Absolutely. And the problem I have with so many Irish fans, they don't understand that we were the benefit of certain calls. Same thing in that Miami game. Look, to sit there and say, oh, well, Adon Schuler he just fell asleep letting this guy catch the ball. Look, if Adon Schuler makes that dang interception, or better yet, let's say C.J. Daniels doesn't make that absolute acrobatic, incredible catch. Let's say he doesn't. Let's say he doesn't even get a finger on that. That's an interception. And all you little bitty dudes that are running around here talking about, oh, Don Schuler just napping and doing this and doing that, it's easy to sit back there and look at it and say, oh, well, maybe he should have locked his head off. Guess what, dummies? 15-yard unnecessary roughness. The only thing Adon Shula would have been able to do was to attempt to knock the ball out of his hand. And guess what? If he makes contact, guess what? He's still going to get flagged 15 for hitting a defenseless receiver or making contact with forcible contact with a defenseless receiver. So guess what? Adon Shula did the smartest thing he could do. So while y'all sit here and analyze the game, because it's in slow motion. Stupid. I thought he made the right play. At some point, you just have to shut your mouth and admit Daniels just made one hell of a play. And A&M out-schemed our defense. Do I think Chris Ash needs to accept some accountability for the fact that he is not trying to send more than 3 guys or 4 guys consistently? Absolutely. But we knew coming in Chris Ash wasn't that type of dude. And that's the thing that bothers me about his hire when we hired this guy. And listen, it may take a minute for it to stick. I don't know. He may turn out to be better than Al Golden. What? Al Golden wasn't just straight fire when he got here, was he? Oh, y'all forget that, don't you? Y'all get the hush mouth when you hear that, right? I mean, nobody wants to talk about that aspect of it, that the growing pains took place. I agree, Marcus Freeman should have hired from within. I agree. But at the same token, here's the reality. Are we going to continue to just disrespect Chris Ash? Because let's keep it in perspective. He's not a guy that overly wants to blitz from what we can tell. But this is where a changing of the guard may be in order. I don't know. But I totally believe that A&M out-schemed us. I believe Miami got us with Tony. And I don't think that's going to happen again. I don't think USC, everybody's talking about us going to Fayetteville next weekend. I don't think they're going to be. I think they've got a great quarterback. I think ultimately you can pull some things out of what came in the Ole Miss game. You can see what happened in that game. Ultimately, I think what won that game for Ole Miss was the home field advantage, but that's another story. We've got Purdue to deal with. But I just want to throw that out there. Guys, lay off. Let me get to the comments. Normally I get to my comments early. Kevin2199, he said, what happened to our defense? I feel like we'll get back on track. Honestly, I think the Aggies just have a really good offense. You are right, Kevin. You are absolutely right. But see, and then in the next breath, you made a comment to me that said, dude, we had a great offensive showing. We scored 40 effing points. Kevin, we didn't score 40 points. We scored 1 on special teams. Okay? I love your comment. I love your passion, because here's the thing. Offensively, when you force the ball into one player, let me help you with something. Marcel Reed. Ash and company were so terrified of this guy's legs. Marcel Reed they perfectly game planned for Marcel Reed's legs to the point that this guy had Craver and Concepcion just getting wide open. And anybody that watches the game, and I've heard a lot of people who don't know anything about route running, these receivers were getting 8 to 12 yard cushions. And I'm talking about Craver and Concepcion. And guess what they did? Oh, you going to give me that? Instead of them having to eat up that yardage, I'm just going to run across and run away from you. What does that mean when you in man coverage? You're going to be chasing somebody. And 9 times out of 10, a guy like Christian Gray ain't going to catch him.
You don't have to answer that question.
You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
So I would expect that Chris Ash and company would figure out, if you're going to man up on these guys, you better put someone, because I'm going to be honest with you, I would rather you get beat jamming a guy than for him to just run out in front of you and just run away from you. Because that's what they were doing all night. Craver and Concepcion were just killing it. CNC. This team is going to be pretty good. It's going to be a pretty good football team. That much I do agree with you, Steven and David. David said y'all were gifted a free touchdown from a block punt, then a score. You bet you're not the better team, bud. First of all, David, we are. We just weren't on that night. You say you gifted? No, sir. You got out schemed on a special teams play. So, no. I will say this. Do I think you were the better team that night? Sure. Thank you for the comment. I hope you return so that we can do some more dialogue, and I hope you return to us during the year and watch this. I have nothing but respect for Texas A&M. I will go ahead and I will state the claim. Steven said, Reed missed a couple of deep shots that probably would have ended up in 14 points to A&M's tally. I guess play like a champion today didn't work for you. Suck it, Domers. Steven, we could say the same thing for that holding penalty, sir. I mean, there's a lot of what-ifs in the game, Steven. Football's a game of what-ifs, sir. How about those deep shots that we took to our wide receiver? Our big wide receiver. What about those what-ifs? I mean, we could go what-ifs all we want. What if y'all didn't have 8-9 in the box to stop Jeremiah Love? See how that works? I'm just saying. You had a great team, and you say, I guess play like a champion today didn't work for you. You can clown to play like a champion today. My thing with you, with A&M would be, can you play like a champ consistently? We'll see at the end of the season now, won't we? Suck it, Domers.
Stupid.
I'm not even going to entertain this because you probably will not be in the college football playoff. And see, and this is what I always say. I always say, be nice to us and we'll be nice to you. Act like you've been there, Steven. Act like you've been here. Oh, I forgot. You haven't. Enjoy it while you can. Thank you for the comment, though. As we move forward to Purdue, I do note that we're dealing with a couple of injuries. One of them being Leonard Moore, and I honestly say from between Kirk Herbstreit to many of the podcasters not in South Bend, they truly have made some true statements about Notre Dame and what they're going to be able to do. And I would imagine in this Purdue game this week, I know a lot of people are saying you can't take them lightly. I agree, you can't take anybody lightly, but I'm going to just say it from this standpoint. Do I think the Fighting Irish have a chance at making a college football playoff? Oh, well, of course they do. Absolutely they do. I mean, they have a much favorable schedule than many teams in college football. They started out with the most difficult schedule in all of the top 25. So when you look at a football team that we knew this was going to be our schedule. Anybody in South Bend knew. And all of you in Irish Nation, I'm sure many of you like me did not think we were going to lose our first two games. I certainly didn't. I was expecting us to go 2-0. And for as bad as we've been, and unlike what we've seen so far, we've actually played well. I can't even pin this all on C.J. Carr. Even though C.J. Carr hasn't been perfect, I will say this. Do I think Mike Denbrock needs to do what he needs to do with C.J. Carr now? Short throws are not his game. You need to open this thing up. And I'm going to be honest with you. The only guys that need to be running short are your tight ends and your running backs. That's it. And they need to be dump-off routes. You need to be allowing C.J. Carr to stretch his legs. Because here's the truth. Whether you want to admit it or not, this causes issues with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. And for goodness sake, stop for the love of goodness. Stop daggum not giving the ball to Jadarian Price. Every Texas A&M player knew on the Aggies that Jeremiah Love was going to touch the ball. Not only a handful of times did you say, hey, let's play action these guys. I didn't see enough under center, and I wish we could get back to that. Get back to being under center and throwing the football. As I said, there are many individuals that are saying that Notre Dame is still in contention. And when you ultimately look at where this team is going, I honestly think that this football team is a contender, regardless of the 2 losses. It takes a lot to come out with your first 2 games against quality opponents, not cupcakes. And not to mention, A&M this was their 3rd game. Not to mention, they had a game in Miami that arguably they should have won. But I'm not making excuses. Everybody's had a situation. But Notre Dame has Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, USC, and right now USC is ranked. And if Arkansas can pull a win this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, we will be in Fayetteville next week with a date and an opportunity of beating a top 25 football team. Then we have USC, who is ranked right now, which possibly would end up being it's possible this game could end up on a backside because they've got Michigan State this week and then they've got Illinois, Michigan before that. Now, it would be huge if they could knock off Illinois and Michigan. That would be massive. And then they have Oregon on the schedule and possibly Nebraska. Nebraska could be a team that is already 3-0, but they could be a massive. They could be on a massive uptick. But put it mildly, you're looking at a football team in Notre Dame that is really reeling, and they, a lot of people are going to say they've got Purdue at the right time. But Purdue's 2-1. And surprisingly, you would think a team like Purdue would be not playing very well, but they shut out Ball State and beat Southern Illinois, but lost to USC last week 33-17. This is a pretty doggone good barometer for Notre Dame to really exercise where it's at in regards to how they're recovering. But you look at a guy like Ryan Brown, who for no bit more than what he did, he threw 3 interceptions against USC secondary last week. So we see against this very dominant or questionably dominant USC defense, he was able to throw for 305, but they weren't able to run the ball. Once again, you're seeing the Irish at a situation where they've got to come out, and they have to come out and set the tone. Chris Ash getting a lot of criticism. Rumor is that Marcus Freeman would take a little bit more of the play calling duties. Is that a good thing? I don't know. That all depends on whether or not Chris Ash is going to be a guy that is going to be humble enough to be able to deal with it. I don't know. But I can tell you this, the one thing that Marcus Freeman likes to do is bring pressure. And you bring a guy in like Al Golden. Al Golden's a guy that likes to do those sort of things and keep the quarterbacks that he has at bay. And ultimately, when you have a quarterback such as Marcel Reed or even Brown of Purdue, you ultimately want to be able to get pressure. You ultimately want to be able to get pressure because when you get a guy to give a guy pressure, he ultimately makes mistakes. That's what you ultimately want. You need a guy to make mistakes like that. That's what makes a game so difficult to gauge. And what I really did not like about the game last week was the fact that so many people made that statement of, we scored 40 freaking points. No, we did not. Because when you ultimately get help from special teams, no. No, as much as I want to agree with you, Kevin, no. We did not have a great offensive showing. Turnovers. A bad snap. Misreads. OC sitting here forcing the ball to the one guy on the team that everybody in the stadium is the ones we know is going to get the football. His numbers look good, but we didn't win. And a lot of people are going to say, well, we dropped the extra point. We could have won if other guys get involved. That's as a coach, your dream is for the opposing team to think that one guy is going to get the ball. You love it when you play a big they play right into your hands, Miami and Texas A&M. Mike Denbrock, Marcus Freeman, y'all fell for the bait. Everybody in the country said Jeremiah Love needs to get the ball more. You don't think A&M knew that too?
Bruh.
I mean, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Many of you want to say that Jeremiah Love justifiably should have gotten the football in that game. I don't have a problem with him getting the ball at all. I do, however, have a problem when you're sitting here force-feeding him the football and the Aggies just smell it coming. 23 carries, 94 yards. Now, granted, that's 4.1 yards a carry. But Jeremiah Love's been up over 7. Let's look at Jadarian Price. 12 for 68, almost 6 yards a carry. That's more like it. Some of y'all saying, there's only 1 yard. No, that's a big difference. When you're playing a top-notch opponent, that wasn't the only thing, y'all. Jadarian Price had averaged 5.7 yards a carry on 12 carries. That was the one thing I can honestly say. I went back at it and I looked at it and I said, 5 yards a carry. But then let's also look at the game against Miami. Let's look at it. Jadarian Price, 6 carries, 45 yards. 7.5 a carry. Doesn't that sound like the guy you should be force feeding? This ain't no knock on Jeremiah Love. But here's the thing. Too many people in the country don't respect Jadarian Price for whatever reason. Guys, we got a golden goose right here. And you know what that means? We can build a whole offense off of the fact that Jeremiah Love is in the backfield. Look, Jeremiah Love's going to the NFL. But the thing is, we don't need to force him the football. We don't. We most certainly don't need C.J. Carr trying to throw it all over the field, though. At least not to the point where he's the number one option on offense. But use Jeremiah Love, use Jadarian Price to affect the passing game. And that's what we need to do. Take this Purdue game, set it up so we can have that ability when we come against Arkansas next week. Because here's the reality. To all of you that think that this offense was exceptionally good, it was not. We still have really good players that are not touching the ball. Jaden Grayhouse is hardly touching the ball, and I'm sick of hearing people say, where's he been at? Ask Coach Denbrock.
Run.
Exactly. But then you're too busy recruiting wide receivers. It does you no good to recruit wide receivers if you're not going to give them the ball. Geniuses. I'm going to tell you right now. You've got Purdue, Boise, NC State, Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford to get your statistics up throwing the football. Or them guys that you're recruiting for 2027, they ain't coming here. You got Malachi, and y'all are not forcing him the ball. You got Jaden Grayhouse. I haven't seen him on one single go route yet. Not a one. And you think these big time star receivers are going to come here? You better get it. You better get it through your head. I got Notre Dame winning this Purdue game, but ultimately, I'm ultimately looking at this game and I'm saying to myself, Purdue is a sneaky team, regardless of what anybody says. Yes, they beat Ball State. I get it. They shut them out, y'all. Don't sit there and believe Ball State is just some pushover. They're 1-2 in the conference, and I mean, look, yeah, they got walked all over, but at the same token, They've beaten us before when we were the major favorites. And we got to get our defense going. And I think ultimately we haven't had the ability to play someone that is less than stellar. But I think ultimately these two games are going to be, they've had to go 3 weeks now listening to people talk about what's happening to Notre Dame. And then you have people talking about, where's that talk like a champion at now? Oh, excuse me. Where's that fight like a champion? You even got people questioning the running champion, the running leprechaun. You got people questioning the running leprechaun, y'all.
Dumb shit! Dumb shit! Dumb shit!
Brad, what's up, buddy? But, guys, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that I don't see Notre Dame losing this game. I know what you're going to say. You didn't see us losing the first two games, which I did not. When Notre Dame plays to their ability, which they have not in a lot of instances, that's what happens. When you play up to your potential, what generally happens is you get situations like most of the second half against Miami, and part of the situation, it was hard to gauge when Notre Dame actually had a really good, they weren't really consistent. This was a game where Notre Dame had to outscore A&M. And that's when I disagreed with Kevin. Because ultimately, Kevin, as I said, I believe there are going to be games, and if you watch enough football like I have, there are games, I don't care how good your defense is, there are going to be games where you have to outscore your opponents. That's just the way it is. You have to know the vibe of that game. You have to know the flow of that game. And they didn't. Marcel Reed and the game plan the offense had was just too good. And ultimately, Mike Denbrock and Chris Ash are going to have to get on the same page. They do that, the Irish can go back and they can tear it down and get back in it. I wholeheartedly believe this is going to be the start of a 10-game winning streak. And find us a place in the college football playoff, but we're going to have to rack up 60 this week. You heard me, 60. But that's going to do it for us on this edition of Talk Like a Champion. Thank you so much to the commenters below, but make sure you guys leave your comments below. Write your name down below when you subscribe so I can give you a big championship talk out. As well as make sure you go to the Facebook page, Talk Like a Champion, so you can catch up with all of the little polls and questionnaires that we will have on the site. As well as go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can keep up with all my in-game shenanigans in real time. But until we meet again, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun rise warm upon your face. May the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.